city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver,
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
She walked in and said hello. How was I supposed to know she would come?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab podcast. I'm Ezra Parter. I'm hosting here today because Adrian Hernandez is on the road driving somewhere. We don't know where. We just saw him in his car. I'm joined by Jackie Kay and Evan Lou, and we got a great show for y'all today. We're going to talk all about the Avs. We're going to talk all about the NHL a little bit. We're going to get around the league, see what's been going on. A couple of things that we're going to touch on. I mean, the Avalanche had a great week. They dropped a game to Toronto, but they won the rest of the Canadian road trip, and then added in a little home game win too. And they've got a pretty good shot to make the playoffs. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about our bold predictions, and all in all, we're going to have a great time. If you are listening to us for the first time, go on over, click over to Spotify. You can see our whole archive there. You can follow the podcast on whatever podcast platform you like. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. All those great things. Tell your friends. It really helps us. Well, let's get into it, okay? I mean, we don't want to talk about just how you can help us. We want to talk about the Avs. So let's do it. Jackie, I'm going to send my first question to you. You almost nailed your bold prediction for that Colorado-Montreal game. Colorado won via shootout with Mackenzie Blackwood in the net, but you predicted that only Scott Wedgwood would get a win on this road trip. What are your thoughts on the goalie room? Is there any kind of real competition here?
Probably not. I think for there to be a real question, you need to see Blackwood lose more. And with the Avs winning the way they've been winning, it's a little hard to really make any drastic changes unless something really starts to unravel. So it's just kind of funny in a way that Wedgwood, I think, has had the most maybe solid wins, or Blackwood's let in a few here and there that you wouldn't like, but they're still winning. So and they've also married themselves to Blackwood, so it would take quite a bit for them to really flip-flop there, especially with the commitment they've made to him.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think for me, on top of that, we have to see Wedgwood beat a quality team, which he's done a couple times, but really he's getting the easier starts, and that's making his performances look a little better. Evan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I think I'm kind of in agreement with that. I think when you look at you're right. Wedgwood has played some good teams and gotten those wins, right? But I mean, Blackwood, you're committed to him for at least 5 more years. Wedgwood, you only have 1 more year. Granted, Wedgwood would be a lot cheaper than Blackwood would be, but I mean, I think we kind of discussed this earlier this year of like, is Blackwood really like the guy? Not talking about like, is he the guy on the ice, because we know that he is, but it's more so just because of the moves the Avalanche have made. I mean, just look at Mikko Rantanen, for example. You traded a guy that we all thought was going to be part of the organization for a long time. I think that's kind of what people are thinking Mackenzie Blackwood will be now. But will that actually be the case? I would hope so, but you never know.
They're kind of out of things to kind of get themselves out of situations that, like, they're kind of out of assets if they need to move on from somebody that that maybe isn't living up to expectations, which we're nowhere near having that conversation with Blackwood. But I think what you're saying is 5 years is a long time. it's also a little silly to think it might never come up, but it's like they got rid of everything. So you're kind of stuck with what you have, aka Miles Wood. So I think they are kind of married for better or for worse, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, he makes his position as the Avs starting goalie solid or unsolid, I guess. Liquid? No, I don't know. But we'll know more about Wedgwood's long term prediction. Blackwood's long term. Uh, 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 Boy, I'm having a hard time with words today, y'all. We'll know better whether Blackwood is the long-term answer once we've seen how he performs in the playoffs. That's really what it all comes down to, right? So we'll find out. My next question is actually about me. I didn't write this, Adrian did. But I wrote in the Friday Feels last week that I'm really in love with how Sam Olinsky's played. I'll send this question to you, Evan, first. What do you think has explained the season he's had so far? He's had early season success, then he went through a mid-season lull where we're all like, ooh, I think he's probably getting traded. And then now he's playing great hockey. What do you think explains that?
It might just be, honestly, the pressure off his back. I mean, he kind of came into the season like there wasn't really a ton of expectation for him, I don't think. I mean, he showed flashes last year anyway of what he's capable of. He slotted in for a good number of games and did well to start the season, just like you said. But then the middle lull was really, really tough on him. I mean, you're getting healthy scratched. You have trade rumors flying around everywhere, and he's looking around the locker room, and there's guys getting traded left and right. I don't think that would have helped his mindset either. So now that he's post trade deadline, he's been phenomenal. I think it's now 5 points in 6 games or something like that, or something. He had some streak like that, and it's good because the Avalanche need defenders. You have Sam Girard, who just came back last night from injury. Then you have Eric Johnson that's out at least with a lower body injury day to day. Of course, you're fiddling with Keaton Middleton playing in the playoffs, and of course you're still missing Josh Manson. So it's good to see him step up for sure. It's just a matter of can he keep it consistently rolling, right? That's something that I don't think any of us have seen yet, and that we're not really sure of because, I mean, ultimately this might be his ceiling, right? He's an older rookie if you want to put it that way, and yeah, I guess you would wish that there's more, but you just don't know how much he can give. I guess if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Jackie, I know you were worried he'd get moved, and last time we talked about him, you were still you said there's still the off season for them to move him. What do you think about what Evan said about Molinsky in general? Yeah, any thoughts?
I agree that the trade deadline passing might have given him a little bit of a breath, knowing that nothing's going to happen immediately. I still feel like until they sign him to an extension, because then you have to ask why hasn't he been signed to an extension? They signed Middleton, they signed Wyatt Amat, they've signed other guys in season. So I do wonder how that one's going to play out because he is going to have leverage. He's going to have arbitration rights. With him scoring again, that puts production back on the table, things like that. So, he has a decent argument to get a raise. Like he's not going to get $10 million or anything, but he's going to get a raise. And until the Avs commit themselves to it, I'm still a little concerned there. But yes, in the meantime, he's here. He's going to contribute. He hopefully contribute in the playoffs. So why I think he's improved. I think there's a few things. So like the trade deadline passing, I think finding a better fit to play with. I think Middleton is not it. I know they move it around all the time. I do think he's a better fit with Lindgren, so maybe that helps a little bit. As well as just getting a goal. Like we talked about, he was shooting 1%, and he was stuck at 5 points, and he had 1 goal, and it had been like all season, and then he finally scores again. So I think that also helps alleviate some pressure. Just guys relax more and they see the puck go in the net, and it'd been a long time coming for him. So I think it's a combination of things. I also think finding the right role, because I think he struggled a little bit when they were playing him a bit too much with when he was on like the second pair. So I think sort of like third pair with benefits kind of role is maybe the best for him. So maybe they're just finding the best way to utilize him at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. I think speaking of finding the best way to utilize somebody, we've just got somebody joining us. It's Brennan Votes here. Hi, Brennan. How you doing?
Good. How about you guys?
Doing well. We were just talking about Sam Malinsky and kind of how he's had a bit of an up and down season, but it seems like lately he's played really well. One thing I wanted to point out is that I think he did. This is the first time he's tried to play a full 80 game season. He's played in leagues that have 30 to 60 game seasons before this, and I think the Four Nations break did him a big service by just getting him a little chance to rest and recuperate some energy and get back into the flow of being a professional player whose body isn't necessarily broken down in a way that he wasn't expecting. Brennan, do you have any thoughts on Malinsky in general, or maybe what I just said?
Well, yeah, he did mention last year that last year was a tough year because it was 72 games compared to the normal 40-ish that you play in college, depending on playoffs and everything. But so yeah, you're right. The Four Nations break probably helped him and everyone. My God, how many players were injured before that, right?
For real.
And then I think it's a confidence factor. So Evan mentioned the fact that the pressure's off his back, but the fact that he finally got one to slip in, Jackie, thank you. His confidence skyrocketed with that goal. So I think he's on, walking in the clouds, and it's just that monkey off his back.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You just everybody keeps teeing me up for these great segues. Speaking of something off of someone's back, we should talk about what happened in Toronto when a referee decided to fall in front of a puck, have it hit his back, and set up a goal for the Leafs. Evan, I'm going to throw this one to you. The game was obviously decided in part by this ref situation, but that's only part of it. What do you think Toronto did well to limit Colorado's scoring?
What did they do to limit them? I mean, the referee, I guess that's no, I'm just kidding. I guess I'll touch on the referee part because the irony that it happened twice in 2 games.
I know.
And they both affected the Avalanche is just wild to me. Like the odds of that happening, like no one could have. If someone bet on that somehow, like if that's even a thing that you can choose on a sportsbook app, congratulations. I hope you live a wonderful life with the money made on that. But I mean, that Toronto game as a whole, I think we all knew it was going to be, a competitive one. Slugfest between 2 really good teams, both of them on really good tears right now, right? And Toronto, I mean, they kind of just sheltered the Avalanche out, I guess is the best way I can put it. It wasn't that necessarily Colorado was playing bad. I think Jared Bednar even said it after the game that he didn't think that they played all that badly. It just didn't go in for them. It just didn't happen. Big whoop. That's what happens in games sometimes. And luckily, I mean, they were able to easily put that to bed and get, 4 in the first period against Ottawa the next night. So they made up for it real quick. But it's obviously a little bit of a stinker, I guess, if you want to put it that way, when you're trying to chase the Dallas Stars in front of you and trying to hold off the Minnesota Wild. And granted, that result plus all the other results that have happened between then and now, I think has only made that Stars-Avs series even more inevitable in a few weeks.
I feel like we've seen them play sort of this 2 versions of the same game over and over again. Like we've seen them play these marginal teams, Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit, and they're all in the playoff bubble. They're not terrible, but you could tell that they're not in the same league. Like when the Avs get momentum, they just can't get it back.
Honestly, sorry, go ahead.
But then we see them play the good teams, the playoff teams, like you mentioned, Dallas, Minnesota, Toronto. I feel like those games were all very similar. That those teams are play well enough defensively that they really can keep the Avs to the perimeter, block shots, and we see those difficulties in creating offense that we've seen through the season come up, and then you play these teams like Montreal, and then woo, the offense is back. And so I think they are sort of playing the same variation of the same game, but against different opponents.
Yeah, I think what I was going to say was that honestly, kind of thinking back to it now, like the Toronto game and last night's game against Detroit were kind of similar, I guess, to an extent. I think they were worse against Detroit, but they came out on the winning end of that versus Toronto. They probably played at least a little bit better, I would say, and they came out on the losing end of it. Granted, a referee's back didn't help, but
yeah, they definitely didn't have the shots last night like they did against Ottawa and Montreal. I don't know if that's just they got a little complacent but it is true, like they weren't quite generating like what they did. It's just the scoreboard helped them out there.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think they had the shots against Toronto too, by the way. But I think, yeah, I mean, it seemed like that Detroit game, they got behind right away. They easily came back and then kind of were like, oh yeah, okay, this is gonna, whatever they do, we're gonna score again. And it didn't feel like they had the urgency that they had to have in other games. And kind of the same issue, honestly, with Montreal, where the big lead was, they built up the big lead and they were playing well, and then just kind of a couple mental lapses, which I think we've seen a few times this year, where a couple mental lapses put pucks in the back of the net, and then they have to try to ramp up their play again. And it isn't easy to just, flip a switch and turn it on, but they've proven to be capable of it to some extent. Brennan, any thoughts on that?
On which one?
Just kind of the whole week, like playing the good teams or the bad teams.
Oh, well, yeah, Toronto's a joke. So Toronto, they're okay. When there's that much interference from a ref, in my opinion, there needs to be a rule that the puck needs to be dropped right there. Kind of like what's the golf drop ball rule?
Sure. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like so it's like just stop the play, because if it weren't for that fucking ref, and I want to use bad language, but I don't, because I'm.
But they also
angry.
Scored one goal, so.
But it could have gone to OT.
Okay, but I mean that doesn't tell us anything about this team. We're not hanging on to every last point. We're saying, can this team consistently beat a decent team in a series? And you scored one goal.
Yeah, I mean, I do think like a game like that from Joseph Woll, who was in net for Toronto, is not going to be the norm, right? It was pretty excellent goaltending on his part. There were plenty of chances both ways. I believe, I don't have the stats in front of me, but if I remember correctly, the Avs outchanced Toronto by a significant margin, outshot them by an even more significant margin.
But I wouldn't say that's the first time it's happened. Like things happen. Yeah,
no, but over the course of a 7-game series, if you're outchancing and outshooting your opponent, you should win more than.
But I'm saying, look at the Minnesota game, look at the Dallas games, look at when they played Winnipeg. These are all those games are all very similar. That it was a struggle to create offense.
Yeah, and again, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I remember correctly. I think they won more of those games than they lost, right? So I think. Yes, the games against more difficult opponents are more difficult, certainly, but it seems like the Avs are pulling it off.
Avs had 39 shots on goal. Toronto had only 26.
Yeah, man, the defense was cooking for a bit, holding everybody to under 20 shots. I love seeing that, and I don't mean the defense, just the blue line, the team defense.
It's the giveaways that were killing both teams. 19 for the Avs and 18 for Toronto. They were just giving the puck away. Yeah, here, take the puck.
I think that's a trend too, especially with Keaton Middleton in the lineup. I was just, since it was Detroit and I wasn't really worried, I was able to have a good time with all of his errant passes that ended up being
and his comments. I did what?
Funny too. Yeah. It was a fun game last night, but I do want to move on to our next question here in the sheet, which I'm going to send to you, Brennan, first. We've gotten a bit more of a look at Landeskog the past week or so. You've been at practice a fair amount. What have you seen from him?
Don't roll your eyes, Evan.
Oh man, you're getting him going, Ezra. That's all.
I mean, Evan wrote the script. Ado wrote the script, not me. But I will say, it has been exciting to see how the clips Brennan's sending and other folks on the internet are sending. And man, I do feel like there's a reason for optimism. What are you thinking, Brennan? How do you see that land?
Based on the movements that I saw the other day, it's night and day from last year. Considering I'm seeing him put a lot more stress on that right leg than I did last year, and the next episode actually airs in about 40 minutes, I believe. But to see him get pumped over something as little as a goal like he did pumps you up, if that makes sense.
A goal in practice, you mean?
Yeah. He stopped what he did, and he did the fist pump, and I swear to God, I was ready to I looked over at Connor McGahey, who was standing 5 feet, 10 feet from me, and I was waiting for him to go, "Oh, Captain, my captain." So
that's wonderful.
I mean, it was packed stands to see it, so it was a mood. It was definitely something to see, and he's cutting, he's stopping. Now, whether once he actually starts taking contact, that's going to be a different story. But yeah, it definitely got me excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm stoked on it. Jackie, you've been our local skeptic on Landeskog and everything else, but on Landeskog, how are you feeling about seeing these practice clips?
Well, it's not contact, right? We've got a playoff game in probably about 3.5 weeks, so time's starting to tick. I mean, I've said it before. What I think is happening. I think he's determined to push himself to see if he can play. It's just until you really see those significant steps to where he's a hockey player. He's taking contact. He's doing not just the easy drills in practice, the flow and go that Bednar calls them. That's when I think you're going to take real tangible steps. But like I said, I do believe he's determined, and this is the time to do it. When you can do it without cap implications, when you can, because he's got to know. Everyone's got to know what's the answer. It just can't be in limbo forever. So I feel for him definitely as the person you're rooting for him, but as how is this going to impact the Avs? I still think it's a pretty mixed bag. I mean, we'll see. I don't think he was out there at morning skate yesterday, so that blows off the consecutive days thing. He still hasn't skated consecutive days in public.
Granted, yesterday's was an optional morning skate, so that might have been a planned off day, I guess.
He doesn't get the option. He's trying to play hockey again. So
that is a fair point, and that's something that that I brought up last week in the show when we were going over this. Yeah, I guess not debacle, but this situation is that you want him out there consistently. You want him to be make an appearance, several times, right? He's done that. He was pretty prominent, I would think, on that Canadian trip. There was Canadian media was very excited about it. I know, I understand, and granted, though, it is still continuing in the right direction, right? And that's what we all want at this point in time. I think I don't know, this is me speculating. I would imagine that I would hope 2 weeks before, but maybe a week and a half, week before playoffs start, they'll start implementing more of the contacts, things like that, really game time situations. If they're not by that point, then he's definitely not, coming in game one of the playoffs. I would say that for sure. Then, you'll just have to wait and see from that point on, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a simple truth that he can't come back during the regular season. There's not money for that, so he can't ramp things up too fast. Not that they're gaming the system. I'm not suggesting that, but it's not the target is sometime in April, not sometime in March. So, March.
He hasn't played in 3 years. Like, he can't really slow play it. Like, if he practiced like a normal player for 2 months, that would do him good. Like, there's no way that they're slow playing it just because they don't want it to look like, well, he could play. I mean, like, when Kucherov and Stone, they practiced for months.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply there's anything underhanded going on.
It's just we need to see the pages turn fast. Does it need to be tomorrow? No, but the clock is ticking. We're 3.5 weeks away from them playing a real playoff game, and so he's got to get from rehab skate Landy to playing a hockey game Landy.
Absolutely,
and it's gonna come up.
Well, speaking of playoffs, we are going to transition to talking about the playoffs a little bit, but we got 300 people almost watching us right now. Thank you all for doing that. If you are new to this, go ahead and check out our archives on Spotify. You can like and subscribe to what you're seeing here wherever you're seeing it, or go find us on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. Ado specifically added it to Pocket Casts for me, and I really appreciate that. So whatever you want us to put it on, let us know. We can do that. We got Power. It's cool. But we are going to talk about the playoffs now. I need to add a little image to the screen here. Just 1 second while I pull that up. It is an image from Money Puck of the breakdown of the playoff odds, which we're all going to take a look at here together. And it is loading. There we go. So it's kind of a strange image, if I'm being honest. The circular look at things doesn't make it clear to me what's going on. But basically, if teams are at the top, they got a great chance of making it. If they're at the bottom, they got a great chance of making it. And on the sides, that's kind of the slightly less. But then
I guess I'd probably look at the inner circle. That's the chance to win the cup.
Exactly, yeah.
If I was going to focus on anything, I'd focus on the middle, because we all know the Avs are going to make the playoffs. We all pretty much know who is. So I think the outer circles are a little less meaningful.
Totally. This is the likely playoff teams at the moment on the outside, but then the likely cup winners are in the middle. Chance to win the cup breakdown. They've got the Avs under 10%, and they've got the Stars and the Jets up over 10 at 11. Along with Carolina and Washington and Tampa and Toronto and Florida all in the East. So I guess they're given. Oh, I'm sorry, Florida's a little under as well. But they've got a couple of Eastern teams and a couple of Western teams up ahead of Colorado. How are you guys feeling about these percentages? Let's start with you, Brennan, since I haven't heard as much from you so far.
Well, 99%. That's a given.
99.95%. It can't get much higher than that.
Well, yeah, almost. But Winnipeg is 100, so
that's right.
Well, I remember it was the 22 season. I think I saw that inner circle. I think it was at this time of year. I think I remember seeing it somewhere around 12 or 15%. So for the Avs for us all to be saying, hey, they've got a chance of the cup, that is a low percentage. For us to be spouting that they're going to be winning the cup. Is it a high chance? Yes. Way better than someone like, I don't know, the Islanders. But yeah, I think it's fair where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like these percentages are driven kind of by likely playoff matchups and just overall roster construction, who has the strongest lineup.
Analytics too.
And analytics underlying the team's play. I'm honestly I feel like the Avs being kind of in the middle of the pack makes a lot of sense, but I'm curious what we all think of Winnipeg and Dallas being up over 11%. Evan, I'll throw that to you. What do you think about how this Western playoff picture is laid out by these percentages?
I'm not surprised, at least anyway, that Dallas and Winnipeg are that high. I mean, they've been the two, I guess, juggernauts of the Central Division, I guess you could say. But the Central Division has just been an entirely different beast, I guess, when it comes to going against any other division. So I'm not too surprised by that. I think there's still, some speculation, I would imagine, from people who aren't as in tune with the Avalanche when it comes to like their depth, and if Brock Nelson's the guy, Charlie Coyle's the guy, all those sorts of things. If Martin Necas can show up in the playoffs, is Mackenzie Blackwood going to keep on performing? Will Wedgwood be making appearances here and there? Those sorts of things. And I think that's fair. I think that is fair, because we don't really know either. I don't think either, right? I think it's really going to be a matter of will they stay healthy? Will the team have everyone at their full availability? All things considered, I would imagine probably not, because that's just kind of how these things work. And the wild card, of course, will Landeskog as well. I mean, you can even just look at other teams in the Central Division here too. Like even Utah still has a chance. I was surprised that they were, I think, like three or 4 points out of the second wild card spot not long ago. Granted, they're 3% to even just make the playoffs. So that's an uphill battle. And I want to give myself a pat on the back, at least for the St. Louis Blues, because they have kind of roared out of nowhere. And I said when they hired Jim Montgomery back in, I think it was like October or November, that they were an immediate contender. And here they are. Maybe not contender for the cup, but they're at least contending for a playoff spot. So I'll give myself some kudos for that. Well, I can, while I have the platform. But I mean, yeah, like besides that, I mean, there's not a ton of other surprises. I really think the only other major surprise that I see on here are the Kings having a 6.1% chance of winning the cup, which is kind of crazy because they haven't made it out of the first round in the last like 5 years, it feels like, because they just keep playing the Oilers. And then granted, on the other end of that, the Oilers, I mean, they don't even have a number on the inner win cup circle. So I don't know. It's intriguing. This year's playoffs, I think, is really up for grabs. It's just going to be an absolute battle, I think, on the West more than the East side.
They're also down Draisaitl and McDavid currently, so that number may change in the next week.
Yeah, once we know when.
I think
Jackie,
if you're going to be injured, you'd rather have it now than 4 weeks from now.
Exactly.
That's very true. Very true, and we've got to feel the same way about Josh Manson. But Jackie, I'm curious, for you, you've been kind of a naysayer on this Avalanche team's cup chances this whole year. How do you feel about the 8% here?
I think it's fair, in line with what some of the other teams are getting in that circle. So I don't really have a huge problem with their percentage here. I do have some comments about some others. Now,
yeah, go for
the Kings, it's interesting. We're going to be playing the Kings next, and then also I think at the Kings, and if I read something, I didn't double check it myself, but they're very good at home. So I think they have an incredible home record. So if what I read is true, that's going to be an interesting test, because I do think that the perception is that the Kings really aren't like that threatening, and so I'll be curious to see how the Avs hold up against them. But as far as the others, I don't know why this model loves St. Louis so much. I mean, they have a bigger chance to win the cup than Edmonton. It looks like there to me. That's a bit. I mean, I don't love Edmonton, but I mean, come on, like that's.
Yeah.
You're not going to go down to any sports book and find better odds to win the cup for St. Louis than Edmonton. So, I'm a little bit curious about that. I know that it's sort of a 4-team race between St. Louis, Utah, Calgary, and Vancouver. And I do think St. Louis is on top at the moment, but proportionally to the other teams, like to give Vancouver that minuscule of a shot, and Hughes is healthy again now, so I think that's maybe a little silly there. But I want to know that just the whole, the Edmonton has a sliver to win. That seems a bit odd to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Edmonton seems like it's shockingly low. Vaguely Sober in our chat saying that that's because they're garbage goaltending, which I think is pretty fair.
Well, sure,
goaltending is weighted pretty heavily, but also Stuart Skinner got them to the conference championship, the Stanley Cup final. In fact,
I mean, who does St. Louis have in net? So
Good stick lucky.
notoriously a solid playoff performer, but a crazy person. But I just wanted to touch on the Kings' home record. They're 26-3-4, which is
okay, then
insane.
I did. Yeah, that's crazy. So that's
Yeah.
going to be huge test
But
to
they're
see.
coming to Colorado, so
Yes, tomorrow. But I think in like a week or so they're playing in LA.
Yeah, it's I think second to last game of the year is when they're
Which-
playing the Kings.
Which could be nobody cares about that game and it really won't matter. But
Yeah.
LA is also in sort of are they going to be second or third kind of? So they might have something to play for as much as Colorado will at the time, perhaps.
If they get home ice over Edmonton, like they actually might beat them at that point, I would think, honestly, because you think about with the fires that happened out there early on. First off, we're glad that Ezra is okay because he's out there in the area. But then, I mean, like you had the whole hockey game, surrounding them, raising money. Like that's something that a community can rally around for sure. And LA is a sports town as a whole. I mean, you got the Lakers that are probably going to be in the playoffs around the same time. I don't know how good the Clippers are doing, but
they never matter. Don't worry about them.
But then you have you have the Dodgers starting up, all those sorts of things. But I mean, LA Kings in the playoffs, that's a pretty good team. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they finally get over that hump with Edmonton. But I don't know. It's also just Edmonton too, which is Edmonton. The one thing also I want to point out on this graphic, the highest percentage team to win the cup is the Carolina Hurricanes. And I find that kind of funny.
Well, it's Taylor Hall.
I mean,
they were in my top 5.
Yeah, I feel like that's a team that notoriously has underperformed in the playoffs and traded away one of their best offensive pieces and got back Taylor Hall and Logan Stankoven for this year's team and a couple of draft picks in the net of it all with the Rantanen, Natchez, everything exchange. But it just doesn't feel like that's a team that's on an upward trend. They've won a lot of games recently, so that explains some of it. But man, I agree. Looking at the East, I'm very confused by these percentages.
I feel like an intangible that every team needs is something that galvanizes them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all the turmoil has brought Carolina together. And you're looking at Columbus. I do want to mention them. It's too bad that they've started to fade a little bit, but I felt like if Evan's going to give kudos for some predictions, I'll say that I said that I wasn't sure about playoffs, but that Columbus wouldn't be scraping the bottom, that the tragedy and everything. And I think that their woes were a lot more bad luck than bad talent. And I think that sort of rallying around that tragedy has given them some momentum. So I feel like every championship team needs to have that. And so I think when you see a Carolina, you can see them pulling together. And so I know that's not what this model is running after. It probably is very heavily based on analytics. But if you were going to give Carolina like a good chance to win the cup, I'd say that something like that is trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I just think about who in the East I like. Who would I take head to head over Carolina? And let's just go around the circle. I'll ask you each to say yes or no, and we'll go Jackie, Evan, Brennan, because that's how I see you on my screen here. Would you take the Rangers over the Carolina Hurricanes?
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how they've
I
gotten
think
back
you
in
can
the
leave
race.
off the hope teams.
I want to do them all. I want to do them all.
Okay.
How about the Islanders?
Never.
No, never. There it is.
The New Jersey Devils.
They have their moments, but no.
No.
I'm also going to say no. If Jack Hughes was healthy, I would say yes.
I think I would too, but there's no Jack Hughes. There's probably no Dougie Hamilton. You got to go no.
Yeah.
The Washington Capitals.
No,
Yes.
I already said that. I love them, but it's too early.
Russian machine never breaks.
I'm with Jackie on this one. I feel like there's just something about that Capitals team that there's so many things about that Capitals team that tell me they're not for real right now. Columbus, they're getting healthy down the stretch. There's theoretically a chance they could push for a playoff spot. If they were to make it, would you take them over Carolina?
No, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. That almost is kind of like an upset waiting to happen. But
Mhm.
no,
Say,
I
I'm
wouldn't
honestly
bet
going
on
to
it.
say, I'm going to say yes. I think they could pull a Toronto, or not Toronto, Tampa. What year was that? 2019, I think,
That
right?
sounds right. Yeah.
I could see that.
Brennan, no answer. Okay. The Ottawa Senators.
I had
We
my
just saw
phone.
the
I had my
Ottawa
thing on mute.
Senators.
Oh, that's okay.
We just saw the Ottawa Senators, so that's a big no.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to say no.
If that's the Linus Ullmark they get, then absolutely not. But,
That would also be another cool upset, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I like the Senators team, but it feels like they're just not quite there. Boston's not gonna make it, but
No.
Yeah.
Are
Tampa?
we sure about that? Just kidding.
As much as I like Marchand crying, and no.
Yeah. How about Tampa?
Yes.
No, I don't
can see
believe in
it.
them as.
Well, yeah,
I know they've been playing better, but
they're third in
no.
Yeah, I don't think Vazzy can do it without a strong backup, and I don't think they even have Johansson right now.
That's true. Detroit.
No, we saw their finest last night. No.
Toronto without any ref assistance.
You can never bet on Toronto. You
I
can't
was going
bet
to
on
say,
Toronto.
the meme lives on. No.
Montreal.
No.
They're still too young.
Yeah.
I want to
They're
say
fun.
yes. I'm going to say yes.
That
I'm picking all the
comeback
upsets
effort
here.
really- Yeah, that comeback effort really galvanized me around Montreal. I hadn't seen much of them this season, but I knew they were
Didn't Montreal just get blown out like 7-something the other night?
Yeah, by St. Louis. Yeah, they got rocked.
Yeah.
I might take back my yes.
6-1. Sorry. I was close.
Okay, and then the big test, I'd say the Florida Panthers.
I think Florida's better. So
Yeah, Florida's better of all the teams you mentioned.
That's why I started at the bottom, because Florida has an 8.7% chance to win the cup. I'm like,
it should be higher. It really should.
How can you not think of Florida as an equivalent team to a Dallas with an equivalent chance here? I don't get it at all. I would say for me, if I'm speculating what teams are most likely to win, I'm like, well, the East race is easier, so teams you expect to win in the East should be higher than teams you think might come out of the West, because they're going to have a harder shot at just coming out of the West. This whole thing makes no sense to me. I don't like any of these.
Marchand came over injured from Boston and has yet to have played. So there's still that impact that needs to happen. And I mean, he's targeting Friday to play. So we need to see how he's going to, after 16 years of being with one team, is he going to have the Brock Nelson effect where he's going to be silent for a couple weeks? And then by that point, it's the end of the season. So
yeah, but he doesn't even really need to score. He just needs to be a pest.
Yeah, well, you've got Matt Kachuk for that too. So
true, but man, that Florida team still looks good to me. But anyway, I think we should move off the playoffs now, unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about.
Eagles playoffs.
Yes, that was my next topic, actually. Anything else on the NHL before we get to the Eagles? Nope. Okay, great. Then I'm going to take this image down and let you run, Brennan. How are the Eagles faring?
Okay, so Eagles are first in the division, first in the West. Last I checked, they were third in the league, and with overall points. They are riding the backs of Trent Miner and Adam Scheel. So Adam Scheel didn't even start the season with the Eagles. He started in Utah. Mandalise has been more of a backup role to both of them, which is kind of shocking. And shocking players over the last week or so have been Ty Felber and Chris Wagner. Ty Felber's had a shorty, and so is Chris Wagner, and they did it in both back-to-back games.
That's great.
Let's see. I think Ty Felber has 20 goals, and that is double his AHL total from last year.
And if I'm not mistaken, they can clinch a spot tonight with a win, right?
You brought it right into my next one. So
There you go.
So give me 1 second here, and I will bring up that. Okay, so here's the scenario for tonight. They can so all these teams can clinch tonight. So you got Florida's feeder, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Detroit, and then us with just a regular win over Bakersfield. Bakersfield is Edmonton's feeder, so they play heavy and hard and a pain in the butt. So right now, here's how the seedings were to be if they were to start the season, and the Eagles would be actually getting a first round bye. So that hasn't happened, I believe, the entire time they've been with the AHL. Correct me if I'm wrong on
Sounds
that,
right.
Jackie.
I think it's
But-
the first round is the play-in though. So
Yeah, well,
the best of 3.
yeah, the first quote unquote first round, but so it's always nice just to get a week-long break when there's everyone else is playing 3 games. So, and it will be a week-long break for me.
I think the best part is anything that secures them home ice, because they're so much better at home now. Obviously, with the record
God.
the way it is, they have been better on the road than they've been historically, but still, they are a much better team at home. So, to me, that's really the key. I don't know winning the division, taking out the chance of getting beat in that play-in is a good thing, but I think ultimately what matters is just having the home ice.
Yeah, and I was actually just pulling up the stats for what their record at home. I can't remember what their record at home is, but I mean it's like 600 or 700. But their win percentage this year is 672. It for the whole league, that's third in the league.
It's kind of crazy. They really haven't called anyone up since like December.
Yeah,
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean J-Mac's been sitting down there. He's leading the AHL in goals. He's he's 3 goals away from breaking a 40-year-old record or 25-year-old record that and
he's doing it as an actual defenseman this time, not forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's playing on the power play, and he's playing actual defense, and he's doing solid defense. He's not playing everywhere.
Good.
And Vaguely Sober says Mando's heading to the Grizz. Well, he'd have to agree to go down there because
I'm not sure they care about Utah at this point. Like, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're terrible.
They're so far gone. It's ridiculous.
You can keep 3 goalies in the AHL, so there's no roster limit, no cap limit. You can keep 3. I think they just kind of. Well, that's kind of a segue. They just signed a goalie from college. Yep. So I'm going to assume that the 2 guys that they just signed, a goalie and a left wing, are going to show up and finish the season with them.
Yeah, that's right. They signed Isaac Posh from St. Cloud and Cooper Gay from
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
Yeah, so Isaac Posh is he's a 6'3", 210-pound Swede. So he's played the last 2 years with St. Cloud State. They're in the same division as the DU Pioneers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Cooper Gay's with St. Thomas. We said University of St. Thomas. I don't know too much about that.
They're in Minnesota. I looked at. I didn't know beforehand, but said they play in St. Paul. So that's what I thought. So they're a Minnesota team.
Cooper Gay is actually one of the names that I actually do know at least a little bit about in college hockey, and he's pretty good. I think it's 35 points in 40 games or something like that.
30 games, 30 points in 35 games, and Evan and I saw him at development camp this last summer.
Yep. So he's been in around the organization. Those ties have seemed to have worked out for him. I'm happy for him. It's good. I mean, the Eagles and I guess the Avs in general just need any sort of young asset, young prospects because they don't have any. So this will at least help fill out at least a little bit of the roster. And I'd imagine, I mean, they did sign for 2 years starting next year. So I'd imagine that they're at least some part of the plan. I would imagine more so on the Eagles side of things than the Avalanche side of things, but you never know. It could be another Sam Malinsky, Jason Poland-esque where you get some NHL playing time, at least here and there.
Well,
It depends.
Yeah.
Depends what the promises were, but like they have to sign 2 years because they're both 23 years old, so it's just kind of like a standard thing. But I mean, yeah, they do need bodies. It's just trying to determine the significance of it because they brought in a lot of forwards and they haven't really had anything work out for them. So
well,
it's always a bit iffy.
Yeah, at the NHL level, Chase Bradley has been a very pleasant surprise. He was signed right before the season started, and he was one of those aged-out picks from Detroit.
Doesn't he still have like 15 points, though?
He has 15 goals. He has 13 goals, I believe.
Well, we can hope for the best on these college free agents. There's such a limited ceiling on college free agents generally that anyone hitting is pretty great. I think Malinsky's our positive shining example lately, but there's a few around the league every year, and maybe we can hit on one more. Speaking of maybe hitting on things, we do have to get to our bold predictions.
I do have one before we go. I do have one more bit of news.
Sure, great.
That we should touch on. I put in the article with the signings, the 2 free agent signings, is apparently, I didn't know there was even a rumor about this, but that Colorado is going to host the rookie tournament.
Oh, fun.
So I guess they're splitting it, and the California teams are going to stay in California. I think they're going to play in Anaheim, and Vegas and Utah are going to play the Avs rookies here in Colorado. Allegedly, it's at the South Suburban Complex. I think that's the big new one on County Line Road. So
sports complex.
It's not Family Sports Center. That's a good thing.
Well, I know from experience. I go there every week. There's more seating in the middle rink.
Yeah, for sure. So that could be kind of interesting. I never thought the Avs would ever host it ever again. So the fact that they're hosting part of it, that's cool. And so I think that's newsworthy that you could potentially go down and see these games in September. So it's not official from the Avs or the NHL, but the LA Kings insider reported it and they're very solid. So I would consider that. Put it on your calendars. Yeah,
I imagine you've already made plans to go, Jackie. So, we'll have to see what kind of coverage we can get from there. That's really exciting. But let's get into bold predictions. We've got 400 or so people watching. Thank you all for doing that. You can, if you don't already know this, check us out on Spotify. Our whole archive of podcasts is there. Wherever else you listen to podcasts, we're there. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever the button is called on that platform. We'd appreciate it. Bold predictions. Well, okay, I'm going to start with me. I was wrong. I said the Avs would sweep the road trip. I'm having a hard time picking a game for the Avs to lose. In my Friday Feels column, I also I feel like I'm just picking wins every game. So I decided to get more specific and pick like not just wins, but who's going to score and one other and the actual score. But regardless, I get a buzzer for that one because I was incorrect. I also said Brock Nelson would get a point every game. That didn't happen. Jackie, you said Wedgwood would be the only winning goalie of the road trip, and that was
close but no cigar.
That's right. Ado said there would be a player with a 5-point night this week. I don't know who he meant, but because I wasn't here at that point, but it didn't happen. Nobody did that. So, Evan, you said Martin Natchez would outscore Mitch Marner. That didn't happen either.
Thanks, ref. Just kidding.
And Brennan, you said Wedgie would get a start and a win. I'm guessing that was in the
Toronto.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Okay, let's try to do better this week, guys. We can do we want a buzzer. We want a winning buzzer. We want this sound so bad. Okay, let's do it. Let's get a ding.
Got so many bad things to say to that.
Okay, well, don't. Let's get into it. Our bold predictions for this week. Evan, I'm going to start with you. What do you got for me?
Oh gosh, you put me on the spot.
I did.
Yeah, because I got to be honest, I can't think of one. I'm not gonna lie.
That's okay.
Let's see.
You
I
want me to
guess
come back?
that no, I just thought of one because I think between now and our next show, the Avs will wrap up this home stand that they've had that they will have. Excuse me. I'll just say they sweep it. Why not?
Sweep the homestand.
Yeah,
I love
just
it.
go with it.
I love it. We got one in the chat from Vaguely Sober. Says the Eagles will clinch the playoffs tonight. I love that. We'll write that down. We'll come back to you vaguely. We'll see if you were right next week. Brennan's excited about it. Brennan, I'll go to you next. What's your bold prediction for the week?
Let's see. They got Ontario. They're fighting with second place, or they're fighting to keep ahead of Ontario in the division. I say they sweep Ontario.
That would be big.
All right, that's a good one. Jackie, how about you?
I'll say McDonald gets in a game, an Avs game.
Oh, he's
Okay.
been
Before our
sent back
next
down.
show.
He got sent back down
Well,
yesterday.
Well, I know because they didn't need him yesterday, but that's okay. There's still a week.
It could happen.
Injuries have been on defense. They get
So-
Middleton.
With Manson, EJ dinged up, Gerard missed some time. He might still need some more maintenance. Keaton
Yeah.
Middleton incapable of connecting on a pass. And Ryan Lindgren, man, that hit from behind felt like it should have been an easy penalty, where he broke skin on his face, seemingly from like the dasher on the boards. I was really surprised that it didn't result in
Didn't
a
Rangers fans say he's injury prone? Because it does seem like he gets
They
hit
did
a
say that.
lot.
Yeah,
So-
he certainly seems to be putting himself in dangerous positions a lot.
So
But
I'll
yeah.
it's a little one for Brennan. I know Brennan wants to see him play for the Avs. So,
Yeah, gotcha.
but we'll say he gets his chance. I'm not going to forecast injuries. We're going to knock on wood on that. But
Absolutely, yeah. So it
Yeah,
just
we got to
seems
get to 50, right? Like it's in the stars. So
yeah.
I would very, very much like to see J-Mac get a game. No one deserves it more than him this year.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm gonna go ahead and get granular. I'm gonna say on the homestand, Sam Malinsky scores the same number of points as the entire fourth line, which could be 0.
It could be 0. You're not wrong.
but then
That would get you a ding.
But then the fourth line kind of changed, I guess. Whoever is playing the fourth line.
All
that night.
5 of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All 5 of them. That's a good way to put it right there. Honestly, I could see that being a possibility, and I think honestly, if you want to add on a little twist to it, I feel like they get like 2 points for Malinsky in the fourth line. I feel like
I almost feel like doing a pool for the listeners. The Miles Wood total number of minutes between now and the end of the regular season. Who can come the closest to guessing Miles Wood's total number of minutes?
I love that. Let's talk through it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games left. He probably plays like 2 or 3 of them.
I'll take the under on 5 minutes total.
Under on 5 minutes.
5 total? Wow.
Whoa.
He is on somebody's shit list, and he is. I don't think he's getting off.
I would say
Yeah.
like 30 minutes. That's probably my over-under.
Okay, Brandon says under 5. Jackie, you say
I'll say
under
30.
30.
Under 30.
Under 30. Evan?
Under 30 feels high.
Right?
I'll go in between. I'll go like under. Yeah, I'll go under 20.
Under 20. Okay. I'm gonna go 1837.
I was literally gonna say 18 something.
It's like, wow, we really think he's
going.
only going to play 3 games? I mean, there could be one injury. He could play every game.
Yeah, but I feel like he's not the first insert on an injury. It's VC, So
I feel like 20 minutes could get you 3 to 5 games.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
somewhere in there. So it's just like Price is Right. Like can't go too high. Whoever's closest without going over.
Well, I think Brennan, you said under 5. Jackie, you said under 30. Evan, you said under 20. So I'm thinking if it exceeds any of your numbers, you're out. And I said exactly 1837. So I can only be right one way. We'll let the listeners chime in with what they think. Vaguely says 13 minutes. I'm going to put that on our list here.
Wow, no one really wants to take the over because, stuff happens.
We don't want stuff to happen. That's the thing.
Yeah. Any other listener wants to chime in with a guess, feel free. You can post on our socials what you think it'll be as well. Just tag at Mile High Hockey or at MHH_lab on X. I think we're also on Blue Sky, the same thing. Yeah, let us know what you think. This Miles Wood minutes pool. We'll figure out a prize too. It might just be saying hello, but we'll figure out a prize.
It's a good one. It's a good one, honestly.
It's a good one. I like it a lot.
Watch if there, knock on wood, if injury does happen though. If we want the quest to 50, watch it's gonna be Cooper Gay. Get the call up.
Oh my God.
He's not signed for this year.
Yeah,
sure he can't. Never mind.
Yeah,
never mind.
Neither are on ATOs, and then you have to sign an NHL contract in order to get signed pulled up anyway. So,
but yeah, we could get to 50 though. It's more likely with defensemen, unfortunately. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Well, we are at the end of our show. Thank you to the 450 or so viewers today. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. You can follow any of us on our individual social medias here, which are on screen. You can follow the podcast at MHH_lab or follow the blog. We write all kinds of stuff about almost everything we talked about today at Mile High Hockey, milehighhockey.com. Do check those out. I'm Ezra Parter in here for Adrian Hernandez, who was driving. We don't know where he is. Vaguely Sober says we're not on Blue Sky just by searching. Okay, well, you know what?
They are.
We can rectify
They are
at some point. But
I'll find it. Give me a second.
Okay.
Keep stalling.
Yeah, no, you can just DM Baker with that later. You guys can find us. It's not that hard. I'm Ezra on behalf of Jackie, Brennan, and Evan. Thank you all for listening. Have a great night and go Avs. Wait for it. Now.
Well, thank you for being our host.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Where's the end card? There it is. Nope. Maybe this one?